The massive Drachnid warship hung silently in Earth's orbit, its dark metal hull absorbing the sunlight rather than reflecting it. Inside the command center, Commander Rex stood with his forearms clasped behind his back, his scaled skin catching the soft glow of numerous displays surrounding him. "Report," he ordered, his deep voice carrying across the bridge. "Sir, we've intercepted thousands of transmissions from the planet's surface," replied Officer Tom, his clawed fingers moving swiftly across the control panel. "The humans appear to be a Level 3 civilization, but something is unusual about their communications." Rex moved closer to the main screen, his yellow eyes narrowing. "Unusual how?" "They constantly share information about keeping beasts in their homes. Millions of messages daily about these creatures. Look at these images, Commander." The main screen filled with a stream of what humans called social media posts. Video after video showed various creatures living alongside humans. In one, a large black and tan beast stood guard over a sleeping human child. In another, a massive white-furred creature pulled what appeared to be a disabled transport vehicle through snow. "Fascinating," Rex muttered, his throat scales rippling with interest. "These humans have somehow tamed apex predators and turned them into living weapons." More footage played across the screen. A beast launching itself over a high wall. Another tracking an escaping criminal through a dense forest. Yet another pulling a drowning human from rapid waters. "Sir, what's most concerning is that these beasts appear to be everywhere," Officer Tom continued. "Our scans indicate that approximately 40% of human dwellings contain at least one of these creatures. Some even house multiple specimens." Rex's secondary heart began beating faster, a sign of growing alarm among his species. The humans weren't just keeping a few specialized military units. They were maintaining a massive army of biological weapons distributed throughout their population. "Show me their military facilities," Rex commanded. The screen shifted to satellite imagery of various military bases. Each one appeared to have dedicated areas for these beasts. Training grounds where the creatures demonstrated incredible speed and power. Facilities where they were paired with human handlers. "They're breeding them," another officer called out. "Look at these adoption centers they've established throughout their cities. They're distribution points for their weapon creatures." Rex watched as more data streamed in. The humans had developed an entire infrastructure around these beasts. Special food production facilities, training centers, medical care units specifically for maintaining their combat effectiveness. "Most disturbing," Rex said, pacing the bridge, "is how they disguise the true nature of these weapons. Look how they present them in their media." The screen showed what humans called advertisements. Images of these deadly creatures being portrayed as harmless companions. Playing with children. Sleeping in luxury beds. Receiving treats and belly rubs. "A clever deception," Rex concluded. "They hide their true military capability behind a facade of domestication. Any species investigating Earth would likely dismiss these beasts as simple pets." Officer Tom's scales paled slightly. "Sir, we've also intercepted something they call dog shows. They appear to be combat demonstrations disguised as entertainment. The beasts display their agility, obedience, and physical prowess while civilians watch." Rex stopped pacing. His species had conquered 12 star systems, but they'd never encountered anything like this. A civilization that had successfully weaponized another species on such a massive scale, all while hiding it in plain sight. "We cannot allow them to maintain this advantage," Rex declared. "The Drachnid Empire has never backed down from a threat, and we will not start now. Prepare a transmission to their global leadership." "What are your orders, Commander?" Rex turned to face his crew, all four hands clenching into fists. "We will demand their immediate surrender and the transfer of all their beasts to Drachnid control. If they refuse..." He paused, looking at an image of a particularly large furry creature the humans called a Saint Bernard. "We will have no choice but to consider these weapons a threat to galactic security." The bridge crew worked quickly to prepare the transmission. None of them realized that their greatest misunderstanding of human civilization was only beginning to unfold. On the main screen, a video played silently, a golden-furred beast chasing its own tail while its human laughed in the background. To the drachnids, it was clearly a display of the creature's impressive combat mobility. To its human family, it was just another funny moment with their beloved pet Max. The United Earth Defense Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy. 12 representatives from Earth's major regions sat around a circular table, their faces lit by the huge screen dominating the wall. On it, Commander Rex's scaled face looked down at them, all 4 of his arms visible in the frame. "People of Earth," Rex's voice boomed through the speakers. "We have observed your civilization and discovered your secret weapon program. Surrender your beasts to the Drachnid Empire within 48 hours, or face immediate destruction." Council President Wilson looked around the table in confusion. "I apologized, Commander, but we're not clear about which weapons you're referring to." "Do not play games with us." Rex's yellow eyes narrowed. "We have seen your beasts in action. The creatures you keep in your homes, train in your facilities, and breed in your distribution centers. The ones you display in your combat demonstrations." The council members exchanged bewildered looks. General Peters leaned forward, his bushy eyebrows drawn together. "Are you talking about dogs? If that is what you call your war beasts, then yes." Rex's scales rippled with anger. "We have witnessed their strength, their speed, their ability to track targets across vast distances. You cannot deny their military applications." At that moment, Officer Jack Miller shifted uncomfortably in his seat at the back of the room. As head of the International Canine Training Program, he had been called in when the translations mentioned beasts. His German shepherd, Duke, lay quietly at his feet. President Wilson raised her hand for silence as murmurs broke out around the table. "Commander Rex, I believe there has been a significant misunderstanding." "The only misunderstanding," Rex interrupted, "was thinking you could hide such weapons from the Drachnid Empire. We demand immediate surrender of all beasts, along with their training protocols and breeding programs." Duke chose that moment to let out a big yawn, showing all his teeth. On screen, several Drachnid officers visibly flinched. "See," Rex pointed with 2 of his arms. "Even now, you bring one of your war beasts into a diplomatic meeting. A clear act of intimidation." Jack couldn't help himself. He started laughing, quickly trying to cover it with a cough when President Wilson shot him a stern look. "Commander," Wilson tried again, "what you're seeing is a domesticated animal species that has lived alongside humans for thousands of years. They're not weapons. They're companions. Pets." Rex's scales turned a deeper shade of purple, which the council's xenobiologist quietly noted probably indicated skepticism. "We have seen them guard your young, protect your territories, and assist your law enforcement. Do not insult our intelligence by claiming they are mere pets." General Peters rubbed his forehead. "Look, some dogs do help with police work and security, but most of them just live with families. They're friendly animals that we've domesticated over generations." "Enough." Rex slammed one of his hands down. "You have 48 hours to surrender all beasts, or we will begin orbital bombardment of your major cities. We will not allow any civilization to maintain such a dangerous biological weapons program." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. After a long moment, Jack raised his hand. "Ma'am, if I may make a suggestion." President Wilson nodded wearily. "At this point, Officer Miller, I'm open to anything." "Well," Jack said, reaching down to scratch Duke behind the ears, "instead of trying to convince them with words, why don't we show them? Let me bring Duke to a face-to-face meeting. Once they see him up close, they'll understand these aren't weapons of war." The council chamber erupted in debate. Some argued it was too risky. Others thought it might work. Duke, meanwhile, had rolled onto his back, hoping for a belly rub. General Peters watched the German shepherd's antics and shook his head. "Either this will be the shortest war in history, or we're about to see the most bizarre first contact situation ever recorded. President Wilson looked at the happy dog, then at the now dark screen where Commander Rex had been. "Officer Miller, get your dog ready. We're going to try something unprecedented in diplomatic history. Saving Earth with belly rubs and fetch." Inside the hastily prepared meeting room at the International Peace Center, Jack Miller paced back and forth. Duke watched his handler with tilted head, occasionally wagging his tail when Jack looked his way. "This has to work, buddy," Jack muttered, checking his watch for the 10th time. They had less than 24 hours left before the Drachnid's deadline. The door opened, and President Wilson walked in with General Peters and Dr. Adams, the chief xenobiologist. "Officer Miller, are you and Duke ready? The Drachnids have agreed to a face-to-face meeting, but they're taking extreme precautions." "Ready as we'll ever be, ma'am." Jack patted Duke's head. "Though I still can't believe they think this good boy is a weapon of mass destruction." Dr. Adams adjusted her glasses. From their intercepted communications, the Drachnids are a highly militant species. They've never developed relationships with other animals on their home world. The concept of keeping another species as a companion is completely foreign to them. They're especially worried about what they call our beast distribution centers, General Peters added with a chuckle. "Apparently, they think pet shops and animal shelters are military facilities." A young aide burst into the room. "They're here. The Drachnid shuttle just landed on the helipad." President Wilson straightened her jacket. "Remember, everyone, this is possibly the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. Our job is to convince them that dogs are pets, not weapons, before they start bombing our cities." "No pressure," Jack whispered to Duke, who responded by licking his hand. The door opened again, and Commander Rex entered, flanked by 4 armed guards. The aliens froze at the sight of Duke, all raising their weapons. The beast is unrestrained. Rex shouted, his scales turning pale. "This is a hostile act." "Please, Commander." President Wilson stepped forward, hands raised. "This is exactly what we wanted to show you. Duke is perfectly safe. He's a trained service dog, but he's also a gentle companion." Rex's yellow eyes narrowed. "You expect us to believe that creature is not dangerous. We've seen the footage of its kind in action." Jack cleared his throat. "Sir, with your permission, I'd like to demonstrate something." He reached into his pocket slowly, causing the guards to tense up. He pulled out a tennis ball. The Drachnids watched in confusion as Jack held up the small yellow sphere. Duke's tail began wagging faster, his eyes locked on the ball. "This is one of Duke's favorite toys," Jack explained. "Would you like to see what he does with it?" Rex looked uncertain but nodded, probably expecting some kind of weapon demonstration. Jack tossed the ball across the room. Duke bounded after it, tail wagging, caught it in his mouth, and brought it right back, dropping it at Jack's feet with a proud woof. The Drachnids stared in silence. He retrieved the projectile," one of the guards said in disbelief. "But why?" "Because it's fun," Jack smiled, throwing the ball again. Duke happily chased it. "This is what most dogs do. They play. They show affection. They become part of our families." Rex watched Duke return with the ball again, his scales shifting to a puzzled blue color. "But we've seen them attack criminals, guard buildings. Some dogs are trained for police or military work," President Wilson explained. "But that's not their primary purpose. Most are simply companions. Here, would you like to try throwing the ball?" Rex looked at the tennis ball like it might explode. After a long moment, he reached down with one of his 4 hands and picked it up. Duke sat down, watching expectantly, tongue lolling out. With an awkward motion, Rex tossed the ball. Duke raced after it, brought it back, and dropped it at the alien commander's feet. Then, to everyone's surprise, Duke rolled over onto his back, exposing his belly. What is it doing now?" Rex asked, backing away slightly. "Is this some kind of attack posture?" Jack laughed. "No, he wants you to rub his belly." It's a sign that he trusts you. Trusts me. Rex's voice carried total bewilderment. But I threatened to bomb his planet. Dr. Adams stepped forward. That's the thing about dogs, Commander. They don't hold grudges. They give everyone a chance to be their friend. Rex stared at the happy German shepherd, then at his weapons, then at the tennis ball. Slowly, his scales shifted to a new color, one that Dr. Adams would later note indicated deep embarrassment. Perhaps, Rex said carefully, we should continue this discussion about Earth's pets. After the success of the initial meeting, the United Earth Defense Council organized a larger demonstration at a nearby park. Commander Rex and his officers stood nervously as more humans arrived with their dogs. As you can see, President Wilson gestured to the gathering crowd. We have dogs of all shapes and sizes. Each breed was developed for different purposes, but all of them are domesticated animals. Rex watched in fascination as a tiny Chihuahua trotted past, followed by a massive Great Dane. Such variation in a single species. Remarkable. But why make them so different? Some were bred for hunting, others for herding, some just for companionship, Jack explained, with Duke sitting attentively by his side. Today, we'll show you what different dogs can do. The first demonstration came from the local fire department. A black and white border collie named Spot raced through an agility course, showing off his speed and intelligence. Impressive combat training, one of the Drachnid officers noted. Actually, the fire chief smiled. Spot uses these skills to help find people in collapsed buildings. He's saved 12 lives this year alone. Next came a demonstration of scent work. A bloodhound followed a trail across the park, finding a hidden toy with ease. The Drachnids watched intently, their scales shifting colors with interest. Your detection capabilities are indeed advanced, Rex admitted. But surely these skills are meant for tracking enemies. Sometimes they help police find missing people, Jack said. But mostly, dogs use their sense of smell to find their favorite toys or treats. Watch this. He pulled out a bag of dog biscuits. Immediately, every dog in the vicinity turned to look at him, tails wagging hopefully. The Drachnids jumped back in alarm at the synchronized movement. They're not preparing to attack, Jack laughed. They just want snacks. Here, would you like to try giving Duke a treat? Rex hesitantly took a biscuit in one of his hands. Following Jack's instructions, he held it out to Duke, who gently took it and crunched it happily, then licked Rex's hand in gratitude. It showed appreciation. Rex said in wonder, looking at his hand. Next came the therapy dogs. A gentle golden retriever named Buddy visited with some children who had been brought to watch. The kids hugged him, played with his ears, and giggled as he gave them kisses. This is perhaps the most common role for dogs today, President Wilson explained. They provide comfort, friendship, and emotional support. Many people consider them part of their family. Family. Rex's scales turned a deep purple of confusion. You adopt another species into your family units. Exactly. Dr. Adams stepped forward. That's what we've been trying to explain. While some dogs have jobs helping humans, most are simply companions. They live in our homes, play with our children, and share our lives. To demonstrate this, several handlers had their dogs perform basic tricks. Dogs sat, stayed, shook hands, and rolled over. One clever poodle even knew how to dance on his back legs. Rex watched it all with growing understanding. And these demonstrations, these are not combat exercises. Nope, Jack grinned. Just fun tricks we teach them. Dogs enjoy learning and making their humans happy. The final demonstration came from a service dog team. A yellow Labrador carefully helped his human, who used a wheelchair, pick up dropped items, and open doors. This is perhaps their most noble purpose, President Wilson said softly. They help people with disabilities live more independent lives. They guide the blind, alert the deaf to sounds, even detect upcoming medical emergencies. Rex was quiet for a long moment, watching the various dogs playing and working around the park. His scales had shifted to a new color that Dr. Adams hadn't seen before. Rex finally spoke, his voice carrying a note of embarrassment. We may have made an incorrect assessment of your civilization. It's an understandable mistake, Jack said diplomatically, scratching Duke behind the ears. From the outside, I suppose it might look strange. But dogs and humans have been friends for thousands of years. They're not our weapons. They're our partners. A small puppy waddled up to Rex and pawed at his leg, looking up with big eyes. After a moment's hesitation, Rex reached down with all 4 arms and gently picked it up. The puppy immediately began licking his face. Perhaps, Rex said, trying to maintain his commander's dignity, while being enthusiastically kissed by the puppy. We should discuss a different kind of alliance. Commander Rex sat cross-legged on the grass in the park, a position that looked rather awkward with his 4 legs. The small puppy that had taken a liking to him was now sleeping in his lap, while Duke lay nearby, keeping a watchful eye on his new alien friend. So, Rex said, gently petting the puppy with one hand, when you say, unleash the beast, you simply mean letting them play. Jack finished with a smile. Here, let me show you what a real unleashed beast looks like. He turned to Duke. Want to play fetch? Duke's ears perked up immediately. Jack pulled out his favorite ball, and Duke jumped to his feet, tail wagging with excitement. The remaining Drachnid officers watched nervously as Jack threw the ball far across the park. Duke took off at full speed, his powerful legs carrying him across the grass in bounds that made the alien scales ripple with concern. Such speed! One officer gasped. Such power! But then Duke returned, prancing happily with the ball, his whole body wiggling with joy. He dropped the ball at Rex's feet this time, looking up expectantly. He wants me to throw it? Rex asked, still getting used to this concept. Go ahead, Jack encouraged. That's what unleash the beast usually means, letting them run and play freely. Rex picked up the ball with one of his lower hands and threw it. His alien strength sent it flying much further than Jack had thrown it, but Duke just seemed more excited by the challenge. He raced after it, caught it mid-bounce, and came running back. Remarkable, Rex muttered. All that strength and speed, just for fun. President Wilson, who had been watching nearby, stepped forward. That's something we've learned over thousands of years of partnership with dogs. Sometimes the strongest bonds aren't built on power or control, but on trust and joy. To demonstrate this further, other dog owners began showing off their pets' favorite games. A border collie demonstrated her frisbee catching skills, leaping high into the air with graceful precision. A pair of Labradors played tug-of-war with a rope toy, their strength controlled and playful rather than aggressive. You see, Dr. Adams explained, dogs could choose to use their natural abilities to harm, but instead, they choose to play and protect. They're not programmed or controlled. They actively choose to be our friends. Rex's scales shifted to a new color as he watched a group of dogs playing together, wrestling and chasing each other with boundless energy. On our world, he said quietly, we never considered that strength could be used for play rather than combat. The puppy in his lap woke up and yawned, showing tiny sharp teeth that would have once made Rex suspicious. Now he just found them endearing. Though, Jack added with a grin, sometimes they do guard us. Duke, protect. Duke immediately stood at attention, placing himself between Jack and the others, looking alert but not aggressive. The Drachnids tensed up, but then Duke ruined the serious moment by rolling over for belly rubs. Even their protective instincts are tempered with affection, Rex observed, his scientific curiosity fully engaged now. They can switch from guardian to playmate in an instant. That's what makes them special, President Wilson said. They're not weapons we've created, but friends we've made. They choose to help us, protect us, and love us. As if to prove her point, the puppy in Rex's lap started climbing up his chest using his scales as handholds, then settled on his shoulder and licked his face again. I believe, Rex said, trying to maintain his commander's dignity while the puppy kissed his nose, that the Drachnid Empire has much to learn from Earth about the power of friendship. Jack watched as Duke walked over to the alien commander and sat down beside him, letting Rex pet him with another of his 4 hands. The scene would have seemed impossible just days ago. One of the galaxy's most feared military commanders, sitting in a park, covered in dogs. "Well," Jack said with a smile, "as we humans say, every big bad beast is just a good boy waiting to be discovered." The puppy barked in agreement, and for the first time in recorded history, a Drachnid commander laughed. The next few days saw an unusual sight at the International Peace Center. Drachnid officers, once feared as the galaxy's most ruthless warriors, were taking Dog Care 101 classes. Commander Rex sat in the front row, the now inseparable puppy sleeping in one of his 4 arms. "So they require exercise daily?" Rex asked, taking careful notes with another hand. "And emotional interaction." "That's right," Jack explained, while Duke demonstrated proper leash walking. "Dogs are social creatures. They need both physical activity and love to be happy and healthy." Dr. Adams operated a projection screen showing diagrams of dog psychology and care requirements. The Drachnid officers leaned forward, treating it with the same intensity they usually reserve for battle plans. "Fascinating," one officer commented. "Their loyalty isn't programmed or forced. It develops naturally through positive interactions and care." "Exactly," Dr. Adams smiled. "Dogs choose to bond with us. It's a partnership built on trust and affection, not control." Rex raised one of his hands. "But what about the training? Surely that's a form of control." "Watch this," Jack said. He turned to Duke. "Duke, would you like to do some training?" Duke's tail started wagging immediately. He jumped up, clearly excited at the prospect. "See," Jack grinned. "They enjoy learning. Training is like a game we play together. It strengthens our bond." The demonstration continued with basic commands. Duke sat, stayed, came when called, all while clearly having fun. The Drachnids watched in amazement as treats and praise proved more effective than any control device they'd ever seen. "On our world," Rex said thoughtfully, stroking the puppy's ears, "we never considered that cooperation could be more powerful than control. All our technological advances, and we never discovered something as simple as friendship." President Wilson, who had been observing from the doorway, stepped into the room. "That's why we believe this misunderstanding might be the beginning of something wonderful. Your people could learn from our relationship with dogs, and we could learn from your advanced technology." The puppy woke up and yawned, then proceeded to chew playfully on one of Rex's lower hands. Instead of being alarmed, he gently redirected it to a proper chew toy, just as he'd been taught. "We've been conquering worlds," Rex mused, "when we could have been making friends with them instead." Dr. Adams brought out more educational materials. "Dogs have many different roles in our society. Some work as therapy animals, helping people heal. Others assist in search and rescue. Many are simply beloved family pets." "Family," Rex repeated the word, looking at the puppy. "Yes, I think I'm beginning to understand that concept now." The day's lessons continued with practical demonstrations. The Drachnids learned about feeding schedules, grooming, and the importance of regular veterinary care. They were particularly fascinated by the concept of dog toys. "You create specific objects just for their entertainment?" an officer asked, watching Duke play with a squeaky toy. "Of course," Jack laughed. "Happy dogs make the best companions." As the session wrapped up, Rex made an announcement that surprised everyone. "I have contacted the Drachnid High Council," he said, standing formally despite the puppy now climbing up his back. "I have recommended that Earth be classified not as a military threat, but as an advanced civilization with much to teach us." "And?" President Wilson asked. "They were skeptical at first," Rex admitted. "But then I showed them this." He held up a tablet showing a video of children playing with puppies. "Even our most hardened warriors couldn't deny the power of what you humans have achieved, turning potential enemies into loyal friends." Jack watched as Duke walked around the room, getting pets from each Drachnid officer. "So what happens now?" "Now," Rex said, his scales turning a warm color that Dr. Adams recognized as happiness, "we would like to propose a cultural exchange program. We have much to learn about friendship from Earth, and perhaps—" he looked down at the puppy now sleeping in his arms again. "Perhaps some of us would like to learn how to be good pet parents too." The puppy yawned and snuggled closer, completely unaware that it had just helped broker peace between two civilizations. 6 months after the near-catastrophic misunderstanding, the International Peace Center hosted a very special ceremony. Humans and Drachnids filled the main hall, but they weren't the only attendees. Dogs of all sizes and breeds were present too. Commander Rex stood at the podium, wearing his formal military uniform. The difference was that now a growing golden retriever puppy, the same one that had first climbed into his lap, sat proudly at his feet, wearing a little ceremonial collar with both Earth and Drachnid symbols. "When we first arrived at Earth," Rex began, his scales shimmering with a mix of emotions, "we thought we had discovered a planet harboring biological weapons. Instead, we found something far more powerful: the art of friendship." In the audience, Jack sat with Duke, who was wearing a special vest marking him as Earth's first interstellar canine ambassador. Next to them, President Wilson and Dr. Adams watched with pride as Rex continued his speech. "Today, we celebrate the success of our first interstellar pet adoption program," Rex announced. 100 Drachnid officers have now completed their training as dog handlers, and 50 Earth dogs have been specially prepared for life on Drachnid ships and colonies. The crowd applauded as Rex gestured to a group of Drachnid officers, each sitting with their new canine companions. The dogs ranged from tiny Corgis to massive Saint Bernards, all looking completely at ease with their alien friends. "But this is more than just a pet adoption program," Rex continued, absent-mindedly scratching his puppy's ears with one of his lower hands. "It represents a fundamental change in how the Drachnid Empire views relationship building across the galaxy." Dr. Adams stood up next, joining Rex at the podium. "The success of this program has led to groundbreaking research in interspecies relationships. The Drachnids have already begun exploring peaceful connections with other species in their territories, inspired by the human-dog bond." President Wilson took her turn at the podium. "What started as a threat of war has become the foundation of the strongest alliance in known space. The Drachnid Empire's technology, combined with Earth's understanding of companionship, has opened up new possibilities for peaceful exploration." Jack couldn't help grinning as he watched Rex's puppy, now officially named Peace, try to catch his commander's tail when it moved. The fearsome alien commander just smiled and gently redirected the playful pup with one of his free hands, never breaking stride in his speech. "And so," Rex concluded, "I am proud to announce that the Drachnid High Council has officially redesignated Earth's status. You are now classified as our most advanced allies in the field of emotional intelligence and interspecies cooperation. Your dogs are no longer considered weapons, but rather the galaxy's greatest teachers of friendship." The ceremony continued with demonstrations from the newly trained Drachnid dog teams. The audience watched in amazement as alien handlers and Earth dogs worked together flawlessly, showing off training exercises, play sessions, and even some new games specially designed for forearm throws. After the ceremony, Rex approached Jack and Duke. "You know what," he said, watching Peace play with Duke. "When I sent that first ultimatum demanding you surrender the beasts, I never imagined I'd end up becoming one of their, what do you call it?" "A dog parent," Jack laughed. "And a pretty good one, from what I can see. Our military academy has added dog care to its required courses," Rex admitted. "We found that officers who learn to bond with dogs make better leaders. They develop patience, empathy, and understanding." President Wilson joined them, smiling at the sight of Peace now fast asleep on Rex's feet. "So, Commander, what happens when you return to your homeworld with your new friend?" "Peace comes with me, of course," Rex said firmly. And we're converting part of each Drachnid ship into what you call dog parks. Our engineers are quite excited about designing 4-armed ball throwers. As if understanding they were talking about ball throwing, Peace woke up and gave Rex the famous puppy dog eyes. Immediately, the mighty commander of the Drachnid fleet pulled out a tennis ball with one of his hands. "You see," Rex said, throwing the ball while Peace chased it joyfully, "we came to Earth looking for weapons, but instead we found something far better, a way to unleash love instead of war." Duke barked in agreement, and all around the Peace Center, humans and Drachnids laughed together, united by the simple, powerful bond between species that humans had known about for thousands of years, the love of a good dog.